choose a better way with every little thought I think.
Today, we're talking about self-care, but we're talking about how to do self-care better for yourself. So along this line, we want to talk about what's it mean to do less and expect more, because we've been talking about that forever now, right? Do less and expect more. The way it works for me is if I have a trusted authority, it makes all the difference for me. I might look somebody up that I've read their book, or someone that I know teaches really well. And in this case, what we're talking about today in Trusted Authorities is Gretchen Rubin. And I don't know if you guys know Gretchen Rubin. Have you heard of her?
You know, you introduced me to her, but before that, I had no idea who Gretchen Rubin was. So,
Yeah,
so
she does
why you love her. Tell us why
I
you love
love her because she's all about happiness, and that is just like right up my alley. She's all about happiness. And she wrote a book called The Happiness Project, where for a year she did something different every month and she wrote about it. It's a great book, The Happiness Project. And so you can go in and see how it worked with her family, how her kids responded, how her husband responded, and whether it really made a difference. It's all about The Happiness Project. And that went on to become a podcast, which is the Happier Podcast. And she grew. Her podcast, she actually does with her sister, which is way fun. And they talk about these happiness hacks. Every week, they've got a happiness hack.
And I think, man, look at society today, and can't we all use a little bit more happiness in our life? And it does make a difference. We actually, in the chiropractic world, we spent at a national convention one year, we had somebody speak on, I think it was called the Happiness Code. It was several years ago, so don't quote me on that. But it was impactful. It was so impactful about how we bring happiness into our lives and how that affects others that we interact with. We've talked over and over again about the ripple effect, and that's exactly what it does. Happiness.
Exactly what it is. Yeah. Well, and when people move into something like the Happiness Code or the Happiness Project, what are they doing? They're moving out of a victim role and into the creator role. They're creating their life experience again. And we're back feeling good about what we can do, right?
We have control of our own life. And that is
we do.
Too often, and I go in waves throughout the day, even it can be throughout the day where I find myself in the victim role and then reminding myself, oh, wait a second, I do have control over this. Oh,
I do. Well, and it's cool because what I've trained myself to do is when I recognize that I'm in a victim role, then being grateful for the recognition. And as soon as I feel grateful, I have a little more power to shift. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I do feel better. And I can shift back into my creator role. Yeah. Right. But a good friend helps a lot with that too, right? When you're in victim. Yeah. Or the 50-50 page. When you're in victim, you could just put a post in, or just go in and look, and somebody can respond to you and help you step back into your creator role. Makes a big difference.
100%. So, we need each other for sure.
Yes, totally need each other. And we need trusted authorities, which is why we wanted to bring up Gretchen. Gretchen Rubin also has a book called The 4 Tendencies. Are you familiar with the 4 Tendencies?
I am now. Hey, Jen.
Oh, tell us about the 4 Tendencies. Yep, Jen's here.
All right. So with the 4 Tendencies, hey, Jen. Man, with the 4 Tendencies, I had a really interesting experience because I took that, I don't know, several months ago, for the first time.
Quiz? The 4 Tendencies quiz?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so is my audio breaking up? Does it feel like it's breaking up? Okay,
No,
good.
it's me. And my internet connection is a little slow today. It's a couple of times it said it's unstable. It's all my fault. I'll just take it. It's not you,
Okay.
it's me.
Okay. It's not
Yeah.
you, it's me.
No, it's me. It's me.
So at that point in time, there was a lot going on and I was questioning a lot of things. And so when I took the 4 tendencies quiz, it was a questioner.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, let's talk a minute about the quiz, just in case nobody knows, somebody
Yeah.
doesn't know about the tendency. Gretchen, in her book, The 4 Tendencies, says we each tend to respond in a certain way to expectations. So, or to a request for our time. For instance, if somebody called and said, "Hey, can you babysit my kids?" We each have our own, what do you call it? Like, it's just your go-to, your default, right? My default anytime somebody would call and ask me to watch their kids was no. So I had to kind of work with that, right? Or if they ask you to help out with moving, or they ask you to help out with whatever they need, it's kind of your default for an expectation. But it's also inner expectations, which is why we're talking about it for self-care, because you make that expectation of yourself. My default is also no. So I kind of have to work on that. Those are my defaults. But people in their expectations, inner expectations and outer expectations, tend to fall into 4 different tendencies to how they'll respond. One is the upholder, meaning they will meet both their outer expectations and their inner expectations. They're rules people, right? People with a strong rules girl. Yeah, upholders. Then you've got obligers who meet the outer expectations. If somebody calls and says, "Will you watch my kids?" You're like, "Oh, sure." But their inner expectations, they'd let slide. They had plans for that day and they just gave up their own plans to do the obliger thing. Then there's the questioner who just resists the outer expectations because she needs to have a good reason why to help. Lots of questions. You give her a good reason, then she will do it for you. But she regularly meets her own inner expectations because she knows the answers to those questions. And then you got the rebel who just doesn't do either. She just says no by default. She won't make her own outer expectations and she won't make her own inner expectations. She kind of has to work with both. So you took the quiz, Jacine, and you came up as?
The first time I took it was a questioner. And so it was during a time when I was questioning a lot of things. And so as I took the quiz, it was like, okay, well, I kind of feel like that was maybe situational at the time when I took it. And then I just took it again in preparation for the podcast. And I had not studied what an upholder was. And so when I took it, that I was like, this is totally who I am. And so, with a mixture of that questioner right there, because again, if it makes sense to me, then I'll uphold it. Right.
Right.
Yeah. If it makes sense to me, I'll uphold it. But I'm more the upholder. Yeah. Principled, very principled.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny that you bring that up because I've probably taken it 5 times because the first time I took it, I thought it was wrong. And the second time I took it, I was sure it was wrong. And the third time I'm like, well, there's just a problem with the test, So by the time I got to the 5th time, I'm like, no, I'm a rebel. It's just what I am. But, and I've taken it over the years too. But there was this one time when I'd spent the week with my big sister. She's 6 years older than I am, and I worship her. Really, there is this little girl inside of me that just bows at her feet. She knows all, right? And so she said to me, as we were talking about the quiz, "I'll bet it's changed. I bet that you've just learned so much and that you've changed so much with all of the coaching stuff. I'll bet it's changed. Just take it." So I obliged her and I took the quiz. And you want to guess how I came out?
Obliger?
I did. I came out as an obliger, but I'll tell you, once she went home and I went back and took it again, I came back as a rebel. So I think we have our default tendency, but we can be swayed by the people that we're around, How'd it go with you, Jen, when you took the quiz?
Questioner. questioner. And I'm all like, it pegged me. I was like, no surprise. But I was thinking about this because there was a time in my life that I was the yes girl. I was the obliger, like you would not believe, to my own detriment. And so I believe all of the work that I've done on myself, and it's helped me to, I think, be in that space where I can say, is this good for me or is this not good for me right now? Make those choices. But I also can see how in certain things, in certain situations, oh, I'm going to be the rebel or I'm going to be the upholder. So I think you have a tendency, like a strong, always tendency, but then you can be put into situations where you will go back and forth. So
yeah, I love that she named them tendencies, right? They're not hard and fast. You always all, it's just your tendency. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. So what do you think about how we apply this to taking care of ourselves? Our tendency, upholder tendency, obliger tendency, questioner tendency. How do we use that?
I think for me, it really helped me feel good about my rules girl. I mean, we've talked about my rules girl on several of these podcasts, right? And so when I took it again, because before I thought, oh, I'm just a questioner. And then I took it again and I'm like, no, this is it right here. And it really made me feel like, okay, I'm in the right lane, being able to have rules. I feel like I feel safe. I know what the guidelines are, but then I have that tendency of being able to ask questions, which is really good because if those lines aren't really leading where I need to go, then when I ask those questions, I can detour and that's really okay. So for me, it just helped me feel really good about who I am and not questioning like, oh man, maybe I should be different. And I think that's what when I read the questionnaire, that's what it was like, well, maybe I'm not doing this right. Or maybe, so I don't know. It gave me like peace, which is good. It gave me peace. Yeah. Take care of me. Yeah. And I can take care of me that way. I did realize that from even a young age, for like being overweight as a child and having my mom take me to the doctor and the doctor saying, we need to put you on a diet. This is what we're going to use. Right away, I was 11 years old and the doctor gave me the rules, right? He gave me the guidelines. Here's the sheet. And I remember my dad, he always made pancakes every Saturday morning, pancakes or waffles. That was dad's morning of cooking was Saturday morning. And I remember that wasn't on my list. And I remember having him say, it's okay. Once a week, it's okay for you to do this. And same thing with ice cream, it was during the summer and it's okay if you have ice cream. And I held fast to that. So as I read through this, I was like, this is a tendency that I think I came to this earth with is, this is my tendency to be an upholder. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
Kind of your core. I know for me as a rebel who resists both outer and inner expectations, my favorite thing to do is just do whatever comes to mind and just keep going, no plans, just go. If it feels good, just do that. And so that kind of shoots me in the foot when it comes to self-care, because I get busy. Well, like I get busy digging in the garden and I'll dig until I drive myself, to where I hurt myself because it's just so much fun. And so I need a little bit more understanding that I can meet my own self-care expectation. I actually, when I go out to work, will set a timer for an hour and then just say, okay, at the end of the hour, it's time to stop. It's like I have to talk to my inner toddler. You got to stop playing in the dirt after an hour. But knowing that that's my tendency to just go and whatever feels good, just keep doing it, has helped me to actually create some more structure so that I do get to that reading that's important to me or to the meditation time that I want to have, or that I take downtime even just to put my feet up and watch Netflix. I just deliberately have to make that choice, and that keeps me healthier. So Jen, how's a questioner do it? How's she do self-care?
This is really interesting because I just am so glad I was able to kind of like use this to kind of help me in a situation I'm in right now. So I am out helping my mother with some things as she is navigating. She lost my father recently. So I am very much in the obliger role because I'm here strictly for her.
Yeah.
And so and since that is a tendency I've had in the past, it was super easy to slip into it. But yet my questioner is coming up and saying, but you need to do X, Y, and Z to take care of yourself so that you can then do this. So I'm seeing how it's working for me. Like you speak up and you're saying, no, I need to eat now because if I don't, we're going to be hangry and I'm going to not be able to meet your needs. Or, like making sure that I do, even though I'm sleeping on a couch, which is not the best sleep, but making sure that I do my supplements, do my water intake, do my oils so that it can support myself. And so it's the self-care is looking very, I don't want to say different, but it's like my questioner is helping me to have those boundaries as I'm in this role that's not a normal role. So I really like this to be able to help me understand and to see how to meet my needs instead of just slip straight into obliger and then crash and burn. So it's been interesting.
Yes. Yeah. That's, and it's so good because you're actually taking care of yourself when you would want to just, like you said, run yourself into the ground. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for you. Good for
I know.
you.
We're learning. Oh my gosh. It's about time.
That is awesome. Another way that I have found this is helpful to me is to understand the tendencies of the people that I love. Because if I'm working, my husband's an obliger. And if I'm working with him, he will automatically just do and do and do for me until he blows up. And he just, you just ask way too much. So for me to be able to kind of monitor, understanding, I don't want to ask for too much because he naturally obliges is really helpful to me. Or my son, who is a rebel, who we share that tendency together. And when he says no as his first response, I'm not offended because I understand. And I also know that if I come back in 10 minutes when he's thought about it for a little bit, he'll probably say yes, or he'll have some kind of structure that he's willing to work within. Have you ever used it with your family or with people you love? It's very helpful.
I
haven't. Sorry.
I haven't.
Go ahead. Yeah. I haven't, but it's another way of looking at people, like how you say, like their behavior and how to work with them. And it's our greater understanding. So I'm going to apply that. I need to really study more of what each of them looks like so I can identify it better. But that'll be an interesting kind of test, case study, test thing to see.
Yeah. It's a valuable tool. It's a really valuable tool, not only for us, but for our families and for maybe for the workplace, even if you've got different people that you're working with, to understand tendencies and just to work within them. It just makes the world a happier place, just better, more effective and more happier. Happier. It's just happier. Thank you, Gretchen Rubin. Happier.
I think that I was thinking about my husband actually, and he was a cop for 30 years, which makes sense to me why I would think about upholder, right? An upholder of the law, and these are the rules. This is this. However, in his personal life, when he puts on the personal hat, I really think he's a rebel. So, because for an obliger, I'm like, well, that would be nice. Having somebody, that would be great to have somebody like say, oh yeah, I'm happy to do that for you. Not at all. So yeah, it's interesting that I can see him in both when he's got one hat on versus another hat. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is up.
Yeah. It was really fun. Well, for all of you who are listening, the place to take the quiz is gretchenrubin.com/quiz. I mean, it's super simple, gretchenrubin.com/quiz. And it's a really fun activity to do as a family. We had a blast when we did it. There were like 5 or 6 of us all gathered in the living room, and everybody was taking the quiz and everybody was talking about their tendencies. And we just had a really fun time with it. So if you haven't, I highly recommend it. It's fun to do with your grandkids too, and just get to know each other better, and then you're just there to support with their own life understanding. It's just really, really cool. Speaking of life understanding and support and progressing forward, what do we have coming up, you guys? I know tomorrow we have Coach and Clear, right? 1:30 Central on our regular Zoom link. How are we doing with book club? What's going on with the book club? That's Wednesday.
Yeah, book club. We are still working on the Miracle Morning. We are finishing that up this week.
I love that book.
Yeah, it's been really, really good. Even those who don't necessarily have to have a morning routine because they don't have to get up and go to work and have some place to be and all that kind of stuff. It's been helpful for them to ask, well, what is it that really, really drives me and what makes me happy? And am I doing that? And am I getting, am I fitting that into my day and getting it done? So as a rebel, how is that working for you, Beth? Because there was honestly,
it works really well as a rebel. I'll tell you, because for me, if I make my own rule and I've studied out, determined what's right for me, it works great. So I took Miracle Morning and I tweaked it and I changed it until it belonged to me. And then it was uniquely mine, then I was able to follow it. So what I ultimately did with it is I took, he's got that acronym SAVERS that he uses, silence, affirmation, visualization, exercise, reading, and then he calls it scripting, but it's journaling, right? So I took the SAV in SAVERS and put it in before my reading time. I don't usually exercise until midday. So I start with silence, but it's only 3 minutes of silence. I'll just ask Siri, 3 minutes. 3 minutes of silence. By the time I've done 3 minutes, I've felt that, how you have that catch in your breathing and you have that sigh after you've been there? I've had the sigh and I'm settled in place. And then I'll do the affirmations. Generally, I've got it set up now that comes on my phone just at that time of day when I'm up. And then I take a few minutes, Jen, with inner imagery, and I use my essential oils and I breathe into my imagery, but it's 3 minutes, a little less than 3 minutes on the affirmation and probably a little more than 3 minutes on the inner imagery, the visualization. And that's working really well for me. And then I read, and I read as a rebel, which is anywhere I feel like reading, I just read. So it's working for me.
I like that. And I took it because I like to exercise first thing in the morning. And so my first 15 minutes, I'm walking and I'm doing my silence and then going into my affirmations as I'm walking. And then my visualization as I'm walking. And it's just, it really is it's like it's changed the way my exercise looks and how it feels. And it's cool. It's cool.
I was really surprised when I started the silence first thing in the morning, because I thought I was doing really well when I woke up with being grateful. And then I realized that once my feet hit the floor, I was grumbling. And by the time I got to where I was sitting to read, I was cranky. And so the first morning I sat with silence, I was floored by the number of grumpy thoughts in my head. And so that awareness has really helped me. And then if I have the grumpy thoughts, I can dismiss them slowly and honor them and love them and feel better, And so I'm creating that new habit of silence, but then dispelling the grumpy thoughts and the negative thoughts first thing in the day. Making a difference for me too. I love it. I love
It's
it.
good for me to hear these things because of my situation, I haven't been able to implement.
Well, no,
So
not
I'm like,
yet. You've been a little
I know.
distracted.
I know I'm chomping at the bit. I'm like, I can't wait to get back and do this. So it's good to hear your guys' successes and your struggles. So I kind of think I can learn from that I won't have the struggle, but I know I'll have my own experiences, but I'm excited to get back and start doing that in a week.
I'll be excited to hear what happens after you've done it for a couple of weeks and what it works, how it works for you, because it'll be unique, just unique to you.
That's what I really liked about it. That's what I really liked about it. He says you can make it your own. You don't have to do 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. You can make it your own. So that's what I'm excited about. Just kind of cater to myself.
Yeah. I noticed like sitting in a chair, like first thing in the morning was really hard for me to just like sit there and be quiet. And I thought, well, let me try it when I'm walking. I mean, what's the big deal? Why can't I do it when I'm walking and just have that silence and just be present, that gift of presence. And that's so cool.
I love that you have the gift of presence. I just love that. I really want more of that in my life. It's such a beautiful thing. So, all right. Coach and Clear tomorrow, 1:30. Wednesday's book club, 1:30, right?
Correct. Yep.
That's funny. So our times are all 1:30. Only yours is 1:30. Yeah, yours is 1:30 Central. Coach and Clear is 1:30 Central. And then you guys, Thursday at 1:30 Central. So the next day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is our very first coach training session with the coaches. We start coach training this week. And so we've got Thursdays now for our coaches to come in for creator-based coach training. And I'm so excited about doing that. Nothing the end of the week, but then we have this great Jumpstart coming up the first Saturday in February. Jen, you want to talk to us a little bit about the Jumpstart workshop?
Yeah, I'm excited about it. We're going to do a tool. I'm going to teach you a technique to help release some emotional baggage, thoughts, emotions, and through doodling. And it's a kinetic release. So it's through your centering your thoughts and your feelings, and then your hand doodling things. And I'm going to teach you that one, and then I'm also going to teach you some other how to distinguish some certain things within yourself through like color therapy as we crayon or marker or whatever. So it'll be an interesting, fun workshop.
Oh, it'll be so fun. And I have a brand new set of markers, just so you know. I got new markers for Christmas.
Awesome. Yeah. Bring paper.
They are the coolest markers ever. Yeah, new markers.
So you'll bring paper, markers, crayons, pens, anything. Yeah. And what's so fun about this doodling technique or this scribbling technique is you can do it if you're sitting in a meeting and you can't, do tapping or you can't do anything else. You can do it. So it's kind of, it's fun.
I love that you called it kinetic release. I love that idea of being able to use something concrete with your physical body and do the release and kind of stealth release even in a meeting through doodling. Yeah. That's cool. It's going to be really helpful. Well,
it will be really helpful because I've been in meetings where I'm just like, and that would be
something.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it'll be great. Okay, well then till Coaching Clear tomorrow or coach training on Thursday or all the way to Saturday for our Jumpstart workshop. It's been great, you guys. Thanks for coming and meeting with us. And we'll see you again soon. Bye, y'all.
Moment by moment, it's all up to me. 'Cause what I think about, I bring about. That's the way it is.